Today, we're diving into an ancient era that totally reshaped the world. An era whose aftershocks, believe it or not, we can still feel today. And it all kicks off with one big question.
I mean, that's a huge question, right? But history actually has a pretty incredible answer. We're going to see how one amazing leader didn't just conquer a bunch of land. He basically started a cultural earthquake that created our world's first truly global civilization.
And yeah, that leader was Alexander the Great. But try to think of him less like a king and more like a stone dropped into a perfectly still pond. His actions created these massive ripples of change that just kept spreading out for centuries. Just look at how fast this all happened. In 334 BCE, he starts his campaign, and just 8 years later, he's marched his army thousands of miles all the way to the edge of Asia. He didn't just take on the mighty Persian Empire, he basically dismantled it in a single decade. It was just nonstop, relentless expansion. But here's where it gets really interesting. Alexander wasn't just about conquering. He was a builder. He founded all these new cities in the Greek style, sure, but he also pushed his own soldiers to marry local women. See, his big idea, his dream, was to mix cultures together, to create one unified world. He died super young, but that idea, it outlived him and changed absolutely everything. So after Alexander's death, that first big ripple he created started to spread out. And it became something new, a whole era in history that gets its own name, Hellenism. And this is the key takeaway. Hellenism is the name we give to the era when Greek culture, their language, their art, their ideas, basically went viral. It spread out from Greece and started mixing with local traditions everywhere from Egypt to Asia, creating something totally new and different. You know, probably the best way to think about it is like a giant cultural remix. You take a track of Greek culture, you mix it with some Egyptian traditions, you add a beat from some Persian ideas, and boom, you get this brand new blend that becomes the international standard for hundreds of years. But this wasn't just some big, abstract idea floating around. This cultural remix had a huge, real-world impact on the daily lives of millions of people across this vast new world. Okay, one of the biggest changes, language. A simplified or common version of Greek, called Koine Greek, became the global language. If you wanted to do business, work for the government, or talk about the latest science, you used Koine Greek. It was basically the English of the ancient world. It connected everybody. And you could literally see the Greek influence everywhere you went. Cities from Egypt to what's now Afghanistan started building these grand structures with fancy Corinthian columns, massive open-air theaters for plays, and even gymnasiums, which back then were centers for training your body and your mind. This blending even happened with religion. Now, the technical term for this is syncretism, but the idea is simple. People didn't just ditch their old gods. Instead, they started to see connections to the Greek ones. They'd say things like, hey, you know our powerful sky god Ammon? He's a lot like the Greeks' powerful sky god Zeus. Maybe they're two sides of the same coin. This whole era also kicked off a major social shift. Because these new, buzzing cities brought people together from all over the place, some of the old, strict social rules started to crack. For some women, especially in these new international hubs, life got way better. I mean, compared to life in classical Athens, where their lives were super restricted, women in Hellenistic cities could now own property, run businesses, and even get an education and become poets or doctors. It was a huge change. So this new, connected world wasn't just changing society. It was sparking an absolute explosion of creativity and knowledge. It was like a massive upgrade for both science and art. And you can really see this change when you look at the art. Earlier Greek art, it was all about perfection, calm, ideal, godlike figures. But Hellenistic art, it got real. It became emotional, dramatic. It started showing everyday people, old, young, caught in moments of action or pain or pure joy. Yeah, the whole point was to capture raw human feeling. Artists weren't just carving stone anymore. They were telling a story. They were trying to freeze a single dramatic moment, almost like a photograph made of marble, for everyone to see and feel. Okay, look at this number. 24,901 miles. Any idea what that could be? Well, it's the circumference of the Earth. And get this, it was calculated by a Hellenistic scientist in Alexandria more than 2,000 years ago with shocking accuracy, using just basic geometry and some serious brainpower. Incredible. And that kind of breakthrough happened because Alexandria basically became the brain of the world.
Its famous library wasn't just a place with a bunch of scrolls. It was a massive project to collect all human knowledge in one place. You could think of it as the world's first search engine, just, running on papyrus instead of servers.
So, after all that, why does this ancient history matter to us, right here, right now? Well, because those ripples Alexander started, they never really stopped. They traveled through time and are still a part of our world today. The Hellenistic world pretty much created the blueprint for our modern global economy. Trade exploded between continents, standardized coins made it easy to buy and sell things anywhere, and giant lighthouses guided ships into these huge, busy ports. For the very first time, people were part of a true international economic system. And this right here shows the direct line to us. First, Hellenistic culture spreads Greek ideas everywhere. Then the powerful Roman Empire comes along and just soaks up all those ideas. Then Rome's culture goes on to shape all of Western civilization. So the point is, our modern science, our philosophy, even our art, they all have roots that trace straight back to this ancient cultural remix. So next time you see a building with columns, or use a word that has a Greek root, or even just look at a map of the world, think about this period. And that kind of leaves us with one final question to chew on. What piece of the Hellenistic world is still alive in your life today?